Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome to Rumor and Innuendo. I'm your host, Robert Karpelis, and I am not joined, as always, by Dominic D'Angelo. It is just me today. A fact I just found out roughly 3 minutes ago. So I'm here. I got the little bug up in the corner. Dom was able to set this up. He is wrapped up elsewhere at the moment. First and foremost, there's a comment from E3s says, "What happened with yesterday's show?" Fantastic question. We did not record yesterday because Dom was on his way to Philadelphia to go watch the ECW version of NXT. I was off yesterday. It was my anniversary. So I had told Dom, like, hey, I'm taking off for my anniversary. My wife and I are both taking the day off. We're going to enjoy, married life. And we were going to be out. So Dom didn't post anything up to say, hey, we're not going to be doing the show. So some of you folks were a little concerned. Say hi to Alt Jake. We're back. Johnny Disco says, happy Wednesday. Wait, Thursday. Yeah, we get it. And Ron Ward, apropos of nothing, says, I hear Uruguay is nice this time of year. Who's with me? Uruguay, interestingly enough, where they are positioned globally out of the realm of where nuclear weapons could hit. I don't know why I'm saying that. Not something I learned over the last 72 hours or anything like that. And as Lou, 4237 points out 3 minutes ago, damn it, Dom, these things happen. You know, I am never gonna fault somebody if something comes up. You know, we endeavor as best as we can to be here for you every Monday through Friday at noon Eastern. Sometimes real world creeps up. Sometimes Dom and I are able to record in advance. Sometimes it's just what we had yesterday. Interestingly enough, here's Dominic D'Angelo.
Hey, what's happening?
Dom appears to be recording from that room in Stranger Things where they tortured the children.
Yes, you nailed it. I'm number 20. Number 20, not 11. So getting experimented on a little bit. Kind of weird in here. Kind of weird.
I have so many questions.
Uh-huh.
Where are you, and are the children safe?
I know. None of us
go.
I have this mustache.
Go.
It does not help. I am trapped in Summerdale, New Jersey, with a good friend of mine, Colin Davis, and I am at his children's playroom. So that's where I'm recording live from today to give you some NXT feedback.
I gotta remove the little bug. Yeah, you got to move the little bug. I'm genuinely terrified, and yet here we are.
Here we go.
And Ron Ward says, can we not go from Dom experimenting into a Blue Chew read? No, we are not. Dom is not going to read the Blue Chew ad from a children's playroom.
Never.
That is not the kind of show that we do here. But Dom, you were in the once and future NXT arena last night.
Yes.
I watched that show on the TV, but I'm curious, what was it like being in the 2300 arena?
Well, so I've been there many a time for a wrestling show, from ROH in the early days, like 2010-ish, and then I've seen House of Hardcore, I've seen Major League Wrestling, there's a lot I've seen there. So the setup that they had, obviously that's a very intimate setting with what they have, how they restructured and refurbished that whole place. Not a lot of space to work in. So tight quarters in the back for the production crew and the talent and everything like that. But then going forward and seeing how it's all set up, the seating was still basically the same, but the spectacle of it all made it feel unique and everything. So from that perspective, it was great. And now from the crowd reaction and what I've seen there before, it probably contends with either the most or like very high up there with the most electricity I've seen a crowd from any of the shows I've been to. So the crowd was really hungry for this. And, I guess we'll talk about the matches itself, but the utilization of the talent And from that coming in, really gave the fans a great ride there. And the fans were invested throughout the whole show, too. And that's the nice thing about it, too, Robert. I'm used to seeing like long tapings there, longer shows there. This was only 2 hours, obviously. And it felt like that was just enough, the perfect mix for everybody there. So from being there in there, it was a really, really good energy. Very good energy.
I'm glad that you enjoyed it. It's a fun place to see a wrestling show, even if it's not the authentic ECW arena experience.
Right.
When I was there in 2005, 2006, let's say 2006,
Uh-huh.
with WWE, I was there with some of the ECW originals like Rob Van Dam, and I was there with Paul Heyman. It was Paul's first time back in the building, and he was baffled that they had these modern things like bathrooms that were
Right.
like functional and working, and proper lighting packages, and it's turned into a real entertainment venue. Whereas
Hmm.
originally it was just, politely speaking, it was a dump. It was
It
a
was beyond.
building that they were allowed to use, and no one else was allowed to use, for wrestling shows, because nobody would ever think to go into that area on the corner of Swanson and Rittner, where you are in one of the most interesting parts of Philadelphia. Is that a fair way to put that, Dom?
That's a very fair way to put it.
Was your
Absolutely.
car still there when you got out?
Thankfully, I took a lift, so the lift was no longer there. But that's because he drove away. At least
Very,
I
very,
hope.
yeah. That was I was there with transport in within the fence behind security, and even with that, I was still a little like, I don't know how I feel about leaving my car here.
Yeah, it's an interesting area, that's for sure. South Philly is very cool, though. I only lived not too far away from there on Fifth and Snyder, and so that whole dynamic there is interesting. You get a whole hodgepodge of folks there. But yeah, Robert, like the another aspect that I really took away from it too was the utilization of that talent throughout the show, and kind of keeping the balance of, hey, it's not a reunion show obviously, but we're tying in the legacy with a lot of our modern stars that we're trying to grow and develop in here. And I think the crowd was hungry for that, and I think if done right, just from getting that energy of how the crowd was receiving it all and what you could do a show there at least, I think, 4 times a year and make it feel special, and have something that fans can appointment television. It creates that appointment television identity for it.
I think what you wind up seeing when you're in that environment is there's an authenticity to that building that you can't really replicate elsewhere.
Uh huh.
And there also seems to be, within the NXT world at least, an embracing of the past of pro wrestling. It's
Right.
something that WWE in general used to kind of skew, but the way that they use ECW pay per view, WCW pay per view names like a Halloween Havoc, or they've done Great American Bashes before. Um, they were literally the Capitol Wrestling Center, named after Capitol Wrestling, which was the precursor to WWF.
Right.
So you're not afraid of the past. And when they did use the ECW originals, they were complementary pieces and not the focal point.
Right. And that's the thing too. Is like now you kind of you put somebody like Bubba Ray in the main event or one of the main events with Trick Williams, and like both guys kind of get a little bit of the rub from one another, and that's not a Blue Chew segue either. But
That would have been it.
that would have been it.
I would have
But
jumped all over that.
but I think both benefit from it. And like we talked about this before, there was the report I think Meltzer made like months ago that Paul Heyman's Hall of Fame induction was the spiritual closing of ECW, closing the book on ECW. Not the case. There's money in the game for that, and you could see that too. The merchandise that was on sale, Robert, was really really neat and unique. They had an NXF&T shirt that was available. They had a RVD shirt that was exclusive to that venue for it. I believe there was a Dudley Boys one too, and then there was just a simple NXT 2300 one that they marketed. And so you make these things feel special for the fans in attendance. Then you see the fans. I don't know how the presentation was on television, Robert, but like I'm sure that had that unique feel to it, a different feel to it than what we're used to seeing with NXT or any of these wrestling shows.
Oh, totally. They opened the show with a recut NXT entrance video interspliced with ECW clips and the old school ECW music, which,
Yeah,
look, if you are a living, breathing wrestling fan, you are going to mark out for hearing that ECW music.
absolutely.
It's so damn well done. It becomes evocative of the moment as well as a nostalgia piece. You definitely get plugged into everything that you're watching. What surprised me in watching this overall presentation was something that I've challenged AEW to try to do over the years, which is run different unconventional spaces and make the most of it. They ran Arthur Ashe, and the first time they did Arthur Ashe, they made that feel different. They
Mhm.
made that feel like what an amazing venue this is. When they've gone back to it, they've not really shot it in the same way to make it feel like such a unique one-off experience and opportunity. They did one Dynamite from the Jericho Cruise.
Right.
I love that. Do that more often. The show that would that didn't work at the time, but would work now is Shotgun Saturday Night.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
The idea that you're going to be in unconventional venues, that you're going to be in Grand Central Station or something like that, and you're hosting a show, you get a different vibe, you get a different feel to it than you would otherwise.
100%, 100%. And I think, yeah, how they executed the show, I thought was really well done from the live standpoint, and kept you on a roller coaster of like, hey, what's going to happen next? Had some pleasant surprises and some good appearances that I think did, and off the beaten path appearances too that you don't normally see with an ECW reunion and stuff like that. So you get like a
Well, like
like a Don Marie or a Francine or a Nunzio even, and I thought that was really a unique way to do it. But you have established legendary names like Rob Van Dam or Bully Ray and stuff like that getting incorporated into it all and really setting the tone for what you want for this show and to, hey, this is what we're about. We're embracing it, but we're also making our talent feel like a bigger deal as well. So,
Alt Jake had a great comment here. The Rhino cameo was
right.
fantastic. I
So I would
agree.
say, yeah, go ahead first. Yeah.
No.
Oh, I was gonna say I was in the bathroom for that. I went in the bathroom and I'm like kind of looking at the ECW the mural there, and I'm hearing this massive, massive pop, and I'm like, oh, I thought Devon Dudley came out. I thought that's what happened. So I didn't even know till after the show that Rhino showed up and gored somebody.
Once again, Dom, your timing is
Perfect.
impeccable. I
Perfect.
thought it was good. The challenge with dropping the lights in that situation, in
Hmm.
that building, there was one name that I think everybody expected it to be, which would have
Oh,
been
that's
Sandman.
that's a great point. Yeah.
And so it's like, and Rhino was great. He looked amazing. I think the gore. Someone's gonna call it a spear. My God, the gore that he hit was truly tremendous. Um, it was just that little thing of like, I thought it was gonna be Sandman, but that's my
Yeah.
own. I booked it myself, and that doesn't mean that it was bad. And as soon as I saw Robert Stone in that ring, I'm like, oh, we're getting someone.
Something's happening.
I don't know who
Something.
it's going to be, but we're going to get someone. It was cool to see Dawn Marie as
Yes.
the referee. The letting the show be an ECW show, quote unquote, when in reality, if we're being totally honest, this was a spotlight of the NXT women's division.
Absolutely, it was 100%.
You
And
know,
you know what, Robert? Like as excited as those fans were for like the legend to show up and the surprise appearances and what have you, there was an immediate excitement for that main event. Like early on, that five women tag match or the five women tag match going on at the end. People were excited for it. And I tell you what, I mean, they really delivered. I mean, Jordan Grace was very over with that crowd. Like from the live perspective, they were really wanting to see her get into the action, everything like that. But I was looking at that and I was just astonished. I was like, look at all those names. You have a stacked NXT women's division right there. And in turn, you have a stacked WWE women's division. So there's just a lot. Yeah, I'm with you. It was very much a women's show for that.
I thought that Lola Vice and Jada Parker had the kind of hardcore match that was gender neutral, if that's the best way to put that. Like, it wasn't a great women's hardcore match. It was just a great hardcore match. I think that the
Yeah,
bumps that they took, the way they laid that match out, the weapons, the stiffness with which they hit each other, because they knew when you're in that crowd, that's a pretty vicious audience to be in front of. And you guys are right on top of the performers.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the funny thing was, is I was trying to take some pictures and photographs and stuff like that, and I'm walking. So where you enter for the building in the lobby area, if you walk right into where the arena venue is, all the production stuff is there. And like the camera, like the setup, the soundboard, all that stuff is there. And so I'm like weaving through and I'm trying to go to the opposite side where some of the other audience members are on the opposite side of the ring. And here I'm like, I don't know if I'm necessarily supposed to be here because there's like WWE crew all over the place. But it's just from that setup and seeing where it is, it is. You're right on top of everything. You're right on top of everything.
That's kind of the fun of it, and I think that
Yeah.
works for the ECW faithful who were probably there. I'm sure you saw some of the originals. There were the dudes that WWE themselves covered that brought the signs, the ECW signs that they brought to the old ECW arena and to an old episode of Raw back in like
Yeah.
'97 when they did the crossover stuff.
That's
There
awesome.
was a fake hat guy in the front row.
Was there? I didn't see that. I didn't
Front
see
row
it.
center, there was a dude dressed like Hackeye, wasn't him, and he was next to the biggest human being I've ever seen in my life in a crowd.
Dude,
And
there
this
were
dude
so
looked like
many.
Wardlow, and I'm like, is this a wrestler? It was just some big, jacked up looking dude, just as a fan sitting there, and you know that they definitely gave him a look.
Absolutely, they did. You know what? The thing aspect of it all too, Robert, is like there was a lot of like younger fans there, but everybody there was like some. I hate to say this, but there was like some good looking fans. It's just like,
I will say, they did cut to some fans in the audience
uh-huh.
that made this not feel like an authentic ECW show. Number one, there were women.
That no, there
There
was
were women in
women,
that crowd, and I was like,
and
oh.
to your point,
And
there was like guys that looked like wrestlers there that were watching. You know, it was nice. It was a good show.
yeah, it certainly felt like a fun show. The stuff with Nunzio and Tony DeVito.
Mm-hmm.
I first of all, I did not.
D'Angelo.
What did
But I
I say?
understand this. You said
Oh,
DeVito.
sorry, I'm thinking of the Baldies.
Yes.
Tony, yes, sorry, Tony D'Angelo. Because the point I was going to make was I did not recognize Tony Mamaluke.
Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dude, he looked like a regular. He looked like a civilian.
He
The
did.
fact that he always looked like a kid.
He did.
And
He
seeing it, I
did.
was like, oh. But then you kind of get sad when you're like, it would have been great if Tracy Smothers was still around for that.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine if he was there? Man.
Oh, the best. The Dudley's stuff was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I, it was like, I get you're trying to give Trick Williams that little moment. You needed to have Ridge Holland get the pin in order to advance him to be the number one contender. But seeing Bubba and Devon for the 1,000th time do the table spot, it does feel a little bit diminished returns. And at least from the TV perspective, the response from the crowd seems a little muted.
Yeah, like I think they got a big pop for Devon when he came out for sure. And I think the aspect they were really into the get the tables part of it too, with Trick and everything like that. Yeah, I think the development. I thought it was handled okay from a live perspective. I didn't think it was too bad, Robert. To be honest.
Okay, it's tough with muting. Part of the challenge when you're watching it on TV
Mhm.
is it's a network program.
Right.
Some of your fellow fans were using what I would call Marcus D'Angelo language.
Oh yes, you can't do that.
The only and the women's 10-man and it went 10-woman in the main event I thought was excellent. The only little production thing I would have probably thought through is I would not have had the miscommunication segment that
Hmm.
they had at the end when Jordan Grace accidentally gets laid out, because
Yeah.
you were there, you heard what that crowd started chanting, and on TV it was just silence.
Yeah, I believe that because yeah, they were chanting that quite loudly, and yeah, you definitely can't have that go across the CW. But yeah, it was a very very well done show event. It felt like, and I think to what I said earlier, I think you can do that on a pretty consistent basis. Make that a stop for NXT and make those things feel special. Yeah, and you can still mix in some legendary names, some memorable names from the past, make it fun, and I think it just elevates the whole game of it all. And there's a lot of names that you can still pull from to kind of make those things feel special too, I believe. So really well done, Robert. I was happy I got to go there and check it out. And yeah, got some good insight about the good energy of NXT overall as a brand, and what they're doing differently in comparison to the old version of NXT, where it's like lots of focus on non just athletes from outside of wrestling. And the takeaway that you get with athletes who have been a part of organized sports, and how much easier they are to coach and take direction, take criticism, take certain things like that, where not only do you get these guys acclimated with the pro wrestling world, but you get them acclimated with making this a good energy and good team environment, and creating these new stars that are willing to take advice, criticism, tough love, that kind of thing, where it comes into play. And so you see that come across on the show, I think. And the energy overall there is very, very positive. So it's smooth operation there.
So that's a fantastic point, because I think a lot of these athletes that come into this view this as, I want to be the best, so I'm going to take that coaching and feedback. The wrestlers that have been on the independent scene, you have to make your own bones. You have to make your own road. So
Right.
what winds up ultimately happening is you're relying on your instincts, and your instincts are what got you noticed and what got you signed.
Mhm.
So if it was working for me when I was wrestling on the indies, and it was working for me to get me onto WWE's radar and get me into the performance center and get me onto TV, I got to trust what I know, and I'm not going to change, because if you change who I am, it might ruin my aura, my mystique. There's a few cautionary tales over the years of people like the number one idea that comes to my mind is Terry Taylor when he
Mhm.
came to WWF and they made him the Red Rooster, which I know Bruce likes to make fun of all the time. When you're given a bad gimmick and you make it work, that's sometimes what the office needs to see. Sometimes, yeah, you're going to get saddled with a bad gimmick and it's hard for you to shake it. But 9 times out of 10, if you can just knock it out of the park with what's put in front of you and you make it your own, you can find a way to be successful. The Doink the Clown gimmick. I will agree with Pritchard. It absolutely could have worked.
Mm-hmm. I do too, 100%. I do. And that's a great point too, Robert. Is like, if you're able to make something bad work, that shows that you're capable of doing way more than that. Imagine if they gave you something good to work with. So it's just, yeah, it really speaks to that. And you know,
That's kind of what it is.
mhm. And NXT's, it's on an exciting trajectory. I know they just announced too. I don't know if you saw this, Robert, but they just announced this morning too that NXT Deadline is taking place in Minneapolis, and I think it's just at a smaller venue too. And
God bless you, Dom. That
what
was that was literally the whole Rhino segment.
was it really?
Was That was them in the ring announcing the Minneapolis show, and then Rhino coming out and spearing Robert Stone. So yeah,
Well, I got the pisser, so I didn't know.
we're all pretty well aware of that. Briefly, with the time that we have left, AEW Dynamite took
Yeah.
place in Manchester, New Hampshire, which was very much WWE territory, and you could tell by who they reacted for and who they responded to. First and foremost, the Hurt Syndicate opened the show. So it was MVP, Shelton Benjamin, and Bobby Lashley. And holy crap, dude, they felt like stars.
Oh, talk about it then, because
They,
yeah,
I,
I haven't
I
seen
know
a lick
you
of
didn't see it. You're in a children's playroom.
that.
But
That's right.
like the way that they set up the the it's the Hurt Syndicate. I was want to say Hurt Business, and I'm trying very hard to stick
Yeah,
within it. They just felt like genuine major stars. The crowd was chanting MVP. They cheered for Shelton Benjamin. They cheered for Lashley with this respectful tone. Swerve comes out, just says, full gear. That's it. I'm like, all right, you're on. Great. That's all you need. Now I'm like, I want to see Swerve. I want to see Lashley. I'm excited. That worked really, really well. This show was trying to advance a number of different storylines, some I think more successful than others. I will go in depth onto that on Working Stiff, which I'll
Ooh.
be recording with Scott Chaplin later this afternoon. But a few highlights here, because rarely do we get a chance to really dig in on NXT, and I was thrilled to get to do that. Claudio and Pac took on Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin, which felt like a big time match. I would have thought that would have gotten a little bit. I get it. You're trying to go up against the ECW NXT show, and you want to throw everything at it. Afterwards, you had Moxley, who was attacking Orange Cassidy to further that, and then the conglomeration chasing him off. They teased Ricochet and the Hurt Business, the Hurt Syndicate. Is he going to join them? Is he not going to join them? We'll see. Adam Cole, Malachi Black. This is one that I wanted to address quickly here.
Sure.
They had a great match. We've seen them in NXT have great matches. We've seen them elsewhere. They're very talented in ring. The way that Adam Cole beat Malachi Black, if Malachi Black is not leaving AEW, I don't know what the hell they're doing as a company.
How did he beat him, Robert? What happened?
Beat him clean.
Wow.
He beat him clean, and then they shook hands after the match. Very athletic back and forth match where I thought Malachi Black looked like the bigger star. He looked like the guy you should be pushing. Same thought I had with Buddy Murphy last week. The fact that Adam Cole just went through this very tough match and then is able to cut a promo, that bugs me from a kayfabe perspective. Normally I'm wearing a kayfabe shirt on Thursdays. I threw things off a little bit. It's fine. Because you should be so exhausted that you just can't speak. Not, I'm going to go cut an eloquent promo right now.
Right.
They did a lot of brawls on this show. A lot of brawls. It was like the default, like you were playing an old SmackDown video game. Jay White and Hangman Adam Page ends in a brawl. Chris Statlander's cutting a promo, and then they almost hit her with a car, and that ends up in a brawl. Christian, then this is 3 segments in a row. Christian cuts a promo about Hook. That ends in a brawl. In the main event, it was Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher versus Ricochet and a mystery partner. That mystery partner, Dom, you know who it was?
I know who it is, yes, but I'll let you say it.
You can say it.
Powerhouse Hobbs.
Powerhouse Hobbs.
I thought it was my brother Marcus, but it wasn't.
No. Your brother Marcus lost.
Yeah, it's true.
They don't support losers. Powerhouse Hobbs is now a babyface.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of surprising. He has not been an overly successful babyface. He is a big monster heel.
Mm-hmm.
And if you would have had Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, Brian Cage, Lance Archer, and Hobbs, all with the Don Callis family, that is 5 devastating monsters that nobody's going to be able to tear through. And then Ricochet and Ospreay and Mark Davis, man, they're outnumbered. Instead, you've now got Hobbs with Ricochet, Davis, and Ospreay. So I guess we're getting to an 8-man tag. Not how I would have returned Hobbs. I would have absolutely kept him as a heel, but this is how we absolutely would have returned Rumor and Innuendo. Apologies again for missing yesterday. Sometimes scheduling, life gets in the way, but we will be back here tomorrow. I will definitely be back here tomorrow. I don't know if Dom is going to still be allowed into children's recreational areas to record wrestling. But Dom, I will, for the benefit of you, since I know you're running out here, you've got a bunch of other shows. You're going to be talking with one of the stars of the NXT show, Mr. Rob Van Dam.
Yes, correct. Well, probably I'm going to see, maybe we can do Friday night, or if all else fails, maybe we can try Sunday night out, but stay tuned. We'll be live on OneTrueSportTV.com, and we'll also be live on RVD's YouTube. You can always check stuff out, though, on RVDTV.com. Be sure to like, hit subscribe, share that out, get the word out about that show. And hey, before I left for Philly, I recorded with Greg Gagne, Magnum TA. We had a really fun conversation about different venues and different arenas and stuff like that, and what that meant to work in those certain ballparks or what have you and everything. So cool perspective on a lot of that stuff. So check that out at fourhorsemannetwork.com and support the show there. Robert just did something special for Working Stiff for the Patreons. Why don't you talk about that a little bit there?
Yes. So for the Something to Sports Entertainment with tier, I went in depth on what happened on Crown Jewel, the Raw after Crown Jewel on Monday, and what that means for the future of the WWE going forward, both for Raw, SmackDown, where I think Survivor Series is going. That is up on the Patreon now. Myself and Scott Chaplin will be recording the main show of Working Stiff, the free edition. We'll be recording that at 3 o'clock Eastern today. I'm letting you know, Dom, so you'll get that in your inbox probably around 5 o'clock. It'll be up later this afternoon, early this evening, on anywhere you get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, and the like. Same place you can get the audio version of Rumor and Innuendo, but you can get the live video, seeing myself and the terrifying room Dom is in right now with that mustache. Please let those children go, Dom. On a plethora of platforms, including the WWE Creative _ish X account, the SE Scoops X account, and on YouTube. Ad-free shows, Rumor and Innuendo, and Working Stiff. So on behalf of the preschool professional Dominic D'Angelo, I'm Robert Karpolis. Best of luck in your future endeavors.
Won't you be my neighbor?